What's up everybody, welcome to the first episode of this Ottoman tutorial on 1.15 of Europa Universalis. Just a side note that I explained before, I am using all the DLCs, so if there are things that you cannot do in your game, it's most likely because you don't have the DLC for it. So just skip what I'm saying. Most mechanics that are bound to be a DLC don't stop you from playing the game otherwise. So we did technology in the last game. In the last episode, we did skip on trade. Let's go to ideas. We'll do this very quickly now because we don't have access to idea groups. I'll explain the system roughly. So every nation have what they call national ideas. Generally speaking, most nations have their own national ideas. So France has its French ideas, Hungary has its Hungarian ideas. We, as the Ottomans, have Ottoman ideas. These are bonuses, passive bonuses that you will get as the game progresses. You start always with 2 bonuses, which are called your traditions. So we start with 5 discipline, which I explain is a statistic for military, and plus 3 tolerance of Eden, which I explain when we get to religion, but it basically makes us more stable. We are accepting religions that are not in our religious group, that are not Muslims. Now the other ones, we don't have them yet. We'll gain them as the game progresses. We'll gain them as we unlock idea groups. Now how you unlock idea groups, as I explained, it comes from admin idea, or admin technology. So at 5, we'll unlock, at 5 tech, we'll unlock the first idea group. When we can unlock it, we will be able to click something here. These are all the idea groups in the game. They are divided in 3 groups. I think you can recognize the groups: admin, diplo, military. Why are they divided? Because buying each idea in the group will cost you monarch points. The monarch points that it will cost you is based on the group itself. So sometimes you might want the group, but you might have to take another because you're very behind in that technology group. You want to catch up on technology, so you take something in which you have points to spare. Also keep in mind when you do that, look at the statistics of your ruler. Because if your ruler is 20 years old and has 6 admin and 0 military, maybe you don't want to take a military idea group. Because the guy will live long, and you'll run out of military points and you'll never be able to buy ideas. I'm not going to explain what each idea group does. As I explain, it will always give passive bonuses to statistics in the game that you will understand when we're done with the tutorial. As you can see, technology cost. You already know what technology cost means. Reduce inflation costs, you already know that. There are a few things that I will explain because they are special mechanics. Deus Volt in the religious idea group, as well as finishing expansion ideas, will give you special casus belli, reason to attack a nation. Deus Volt will give you a casus belli on any neighboring country that is not of your religion. There's 2 casus belli. Holy War, which is used on other religion groups, and cleansing of heresies, which is used on your heretics. This is extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful, especially to take early game. Eventually it will be outrun in value by the imperialism CB that you get at 23 diplomatic, which I explained in the last video. But it's really strong. The rest of the group is built to convert. I'll explain roughly what the concept of each group is, I suppose. So religious is to convert stuff to your religion and your culture. Innovative is to speed up your technology. Also, it saves you points, monarch points. Yeah, in multiple ways, either by giving you more advisors, making your advisors cheaper, reducing inflation and war exhaustion, giving you more slots for leaders, etc., reducing technology straight up. Economic, well, as the name says, it boosts your economy. Most of them are in ways that increases production, increases taxes, lowers the cost of your army, makes your buildings cheaper, reduces inflation, reduces the interest when you take loans, and reduces the cost of development. Expansion is like exploration. These 2 are the groups that you will want if you want colonists, if you want to colonize. Exploration will probably be the first you want. because it's more focused on colonization, but expansion will help you also colonize. It also gives you bonuses, inner bonuses towards expansion. This will purely let you expand, but doesn't really give you bonuses towards the expansion gives you. The expansion itself gives you a bonus because it gives you land, but it doesn't boost that land. Expansion will let you get bonuses from the expansion. You're so wide that there are things that you have a hard time accessing. This will help you on that, like give you an extra merchant, give you power, trade power on the long run, like that your ships are quicker to build. You have more slots for relations, etc. Also, it gives you permanent casus belli on nations that are extremely behind in technology in India, well, Asia and Africa. Administrative ideas will help you, first of all, mainly save administrative points by first reducing the creation of cores and reducing the cost of subsequent technology in administrative. Also gives you more advisors, so more choices on that. Will boost your production, reduce your interest as well, and will help you use mercenaries more efficiently, which we'll get to when we do the military. Humanist is the opposite of religious. While religious lets you convert to your religion, humanist lets you accept other religions and cultures, basically. Also reduces unrest, etc, etc. Espionage in single player is pretty much useless, but if you want to look into it, it will unlock, as I said earlier on, most of these decisions are locked being technology. You unlock them by taking this group. Also, it gives you some bonuses towards other actions in the espionage, like spy defense. May sabotage reputation, that's one of them, etc, etc, etc. It will help you do espionage. Diplomatic ideas will help you be more diplomatic by giving you more reputation, more slots, more diplomats. Will reduce the cost of war exhaustion. The point of that, I will explain war exhaustion when you do the tab where it is, but basically to reduce it, it costs diplo points, so that will save you a lot of diplo points. Speed up the speed of your relations, lets you take more in war, and reduces the cost of diplomatic technology. Also cancels some bad effects of some actions in diplomacy. This is hard to explain until we get there. Trade will boost your trade. I don't need to explain that. There's 3 of them that gives you an extra merchant. Everything else boosts your trade in one way or another. Exploration, I just explained, gives you 2 colonists. Gives you the generals that will let you explore land and sea. Gets you colonize further away. Gives you more global settlers, so speed up your colonies. Tariffs, which is the way you get taxes from your colonies here. More ships, and a permanent casus belli against primitives. Primitives are the natives in North America, well, in America in general. Maritime will boost the power of your ships. So Navy tradition, I'll get to tradition shortly. Makes your light ship fight better, etc. You can look these yourselves. The one thing is ships can repair when in coastal sea zones, because a ship usually needs to be sitting in the port to be able to repair. When you have maritime idea, they can do this just by being in the sea zone near a port. Influence is akin to diplomatic ideas, but while diplomatic ideas helps you more deal with other nations, influence is better for your vassals. Income from vassals. Diplomatic annexation cost makes them cheaper to be annexed. This will make it faster to annex. This lets you have more vassals. This means they will give you more troops. These 2 are not linked to vassals. Aggressive expansion, I didn't explain yet specifically what aggressive expansion means, but I said the effect of it. This means that you take less of it. This will speed up the time it takes to fabricate a claim, and this is when you take stuff in a war that you don't have a reason, you don't have a claim, you don't have a core, but you still want to take it. It usually costs you diplomatic points to do so. Having unjustified demand here will cut this cost in half. And military ideas, most of them will boost your army in one way or another. I'll start with naval ideas because it's one idea group that once you learn to play, you'll never take ever again. It will boost your navy, but in such a weird way that you would have wished that you used those points on something else. Now, aristocratic is the least military focused one. There's some military stuff in it, but there's also some diplomatic stuff. You boost your cavalry, boost your army tradition. I'll explain that later. This is good if you have vassals. Also, hostile core creation costs will not be very useful for a player. It will make your provinces harder to core for people that take your provinces. National manpower gives you more manpower. Another diplomat. Cost of reducing war exhaustion, the same thing as this, just not the same value, and reduces subsequent technology. The cost of technology in military also gives you another leader. Offensive will help you be more offensive, gives you more pips on your leaders, easier, faster to hire units, gives you more prestige in battles. One way of getting prestige is by winning battles. You get more if you have offensive. Makes it faster to siege forts, gives you more force limit for your army discipline, and you recover your morale faster. Defensive is the opposite. Tradition, I'll explain again. Morale, I already explained that. Land leader maneuver, this is the same thing as this, but for another stat. Maintenance modifier reduction, I explained that. Fort maintenance, as I explained. Forts cost you money every month. Well, if you have that idea, it costs you less. Also, the forts have more defense, so they are harder to siege. Reinforcement speed, I explained reinforcement at the very beginning, but just to recap, when you fight a battle, you lose troops in it. It will reinforce slowly every month. It's at the base, it's 100 per unit per month. That comes straight for your manpower. If you have this idea, it will speed up this. So instead of 100, this is 133. And land attrition, I explained attrition. If you have too much land, too much troops in the province, you take attrition. Also, while sieging, you take attrition. Well, if you have this, you take less attrition. And attrition for enemy means that your enemies in your land, while they are sieging you, will take more attrition. Quality will boost the quality of your troops. So combat ability, there's 3 of them, boosting different types of land units. It just makes them better in fighting. You also get more discipline here, more army tradition, which I'll explain, and these are the same thing but for navies. Ship durability, morale of army and navies, and naval attrition. Quantity gives you, while quality and offensive makes your troops better, while offensive makes your generals better, quality makes your troops better, quantity gives you more troops. More manpower, you recover manpower faster, your regiments are cost cheaper and they cost less. They cost less to build and cost less to upkeep, which means you can have more. You have more mercenaries, your forts have more garrison and attrition reduction, and a huge 50% force limit modifier. That is true, as is said in chat. Depending on your government type, so monarchy or republic, theocracies will have access to aristocratic, but if you are a republic, you do not have access to aristocratic. Instead, you have access to plutocratic, which serves the same purpose. It's another military group that is not extremely military focused, but instead of boosting your cavalry and your manpower, it will boost the morale of your troops. I think it's the only military bonus. I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's the only military bonus that it has. Otherwise, it will boost your taxes, give you unrest reduction, reduces tech cost all over. This one is 10% here, but plutocratic has the same thing that here, so 5% everywhere. So that's basically for ideas. Another thing, when I went through the basic stats here, there was policies here, and I said that's linked to tech. But by now you know what technology is, you know what idea is there, we just need to do policies. As you unlock idea groups, once you have a mix of 2 idea groups that are in different types, you will have access to policies. You can see those by mousing over the name of the group, of the idea group. You'll have a list of policies for each combo of 2 idea groups that are in different types, like aristocratic and trade, by example, but not aristocratic and defensive. You have access to policy. For the example I just said, aristocratic and trade, while we're mousing over aristocratic, so all we need to do is find trade, which is the first one. If we would to be, or first of all, you need to finish both groups fully. So you need to finish aristocratic fully, you need to finish trade fully for this example. You don't get the bonus directly, you'll need to enact the policy, which will cost you monarch points every month, depending, and it's 1 point every month in a category depending of where the policy is. This one is a diplomatic one. It would give you trade power abroad and time to justify trade conflict, which is not a really good one. But if you look at, by example, quality ideas, and if you have also economic ideas, the first one, it gives you a big, huge, which is huge, 5% discipline. To enact these, you will go to the next tab, which will go next. So we'll go there right now. I'll start with policy since that's what we're doing. We don't have access to it because obviously we don't have idea groups. But if we add idea groups, as soon as you have one finished, you'll be able to click on this. It will give you a new window. We'll go over this when we have it. But just to explain, basically, you'll have your policies divided in 3 groups: admin, diplomatic, military. You'll be able to click on it. It will be there in gray if you have, as soon as you unlock idea groups, it will tell you which one you'll be able to have eventually once you finish the idea groups that you currently are building on. Once you finish 2 idea groups, you will have at least one policy that will be blue. That means you can enact it. When you enact the policy, it will cost you 1 monarch points per month in a category based on where it is. And you are forced to keep the policy for 20 years, so think about that. 20 years, 1 every month, that's 240 monarch points in that category. So some policies will save you points on other actions. Just keep in mind that you're still paying 240 points to have that policy enacted. So is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. You'll use it usually, especially if you're in the Western group, because Western technology is super cheap. On the late game, because as the game progresses, your technology will get cheaper because you get ideas that reduces the cost. So eventually you'll run and you'll get richer and richer, letting you have advisors that are better and better. So eventually you'll run at a point where you have so much points and then you're tired of just sending it on development, which I'll explain when we get there. Policies might be a better option to spend your points. Now mission, I already enacted it to show you claims earlier on. Usually speaking, when you don't have a mission active, which we have because we took it, usually you have 3 choices of missions. Mission will have a goal, you'll have a question mark in a circle. If you mouse over it, it will tell you what you need to do to complete that mission. It's either conquering land or reaching a certain level of troops or ships or like having more troops than another nation, etc., etc. When you finish it, well, this is the objective that you would have on the question mark. It's here, I need to own Constantinople, that's why it gave me a claim on it. When I finish it, it gives me a reward of +1 legitimacy a year. It's not that great, but you take it because it gives you a CB on this. When you finish it, you'll be able to take another mission. Usually there's always 3 missions. Eventually, sometimes there's less than that, but usually there's 3 of them. If you don't like the mission, just to know, you can cancel a mission. You won't be able to take another mission for a year, but then after that 3 new missions will come in. If the 3 missions that it gives you, you don't want to do it, either because it's going to be impossible, because sometimes it's asking you to conquer, I don't know, it could ask me to conquer Themis, by example. Hungary will be allied to Austria, etc. I'm like, I'm not going to fight this for that. I don't want to do that mission. But sometimes it gives you 3 missions that you don't want to do, or that you cannot do. In that case, you can always select one and cancel it right away. You won't be able to take a mission for a year, but there's a high chance that when the mission stake comes back, it's not going to be the same. Instead of just waiting to be able to do one of the mission, because once you have 3 missions here, the missions don't change until you do one or you cancel it. And then you have national decisions. There's 2 types of national decisions. There's the blue ones and the gold ones. The gold ones are rare, but they are drastic changes that will change usually the nature of your country, while blue ones are small ones that comes and goes. As we are Sunni, there's a set of decisions. This is a specific mechanic for Sunnis. There's a set of decisions that will always be active not this one, for until the death of my ruler. Once my ruler dies, then we have to reenact them. It doesn't cost anything to enact them, but it has a prerequisite of a certain stats. So this requires 3 Diplo. As we said, my ruler is a 556, so yeah, he has access to most of them. So we'll do that. We'll adopt the title of Calipha, which will give us 10 piety, which we'll explain soon when we do religion, but also gives us a yearly prestige of 0.5, which is good. Denouncement of sect practices. We require 3 diplomatic and not have a council. We can do it. By the way, when you can do it, the letter icon is lit up. It gives us -1 national unrest, which is pretty good, and 10 piety, which we want. And we'll do this one. This is a special one for the Ottomans, well, for the Turk nations. It costs us 100 military points, which may slow us down, but it gives us a 10% national manpower modifier for the rest of the game. So we'll do it. Now, why can't we do those? These are decisions that lets you change government type. All nations, with the exception of 2 nations, being, well, the hordes don't have that. They have one specific decision that they need to do to become a monarchy, but when they do, they have access to those. The Pope cannot change government at all, ever. He has a special government type, the papacy, but he cannot change it ever until he get revolutionary in the end of the game. I'll get to that when we get there. And Poland has also a special type of government, elective monarchy, and you cannot get out of it until a certain event happens in the 17th century. So that's it. Other nations will have access to this. This will let me turn into a republic. This will then let me turn into a theocracy. Each will require 1 stability, which will also require 2 specific idea groups. Oligarchic administrative will require aristocratic and influence, and this one will require religious and diplomatic. Also, they have a specific republic doesn't have anything other than being at peace and not being a subject, but to be able to become a theocracy, you also need 100 religious unity, which we don't have because we have heathens. Unify Islam is every Islamic nation has access to it. It's a pretty difficult one to do because you need land from Spain to Persia or Afghanistan. But when you do it, it will cost you points, monarch points, but you will get a massive bonus. I'll let you look at it yourself, but it's pretty huge. The tolerance, I'll explain in a second what it is. The rest you should know by now what it is. Western focus is a decision given to everyone that is in the Anatolian tech group, which is us and our miners here, as well as the Eastern tech group, which is everything from Russia, not these guys, from Russia to Poland, Hungary, and these small guys in Byzantium. All these nations have a Western focus decision. Is different for each nation, giving them the ability to westernize. I didn't explain westernization, but that's why I didn't explain it. Pause. Here I will explain westernization now. So any group, tech group, that is not Western, meaning the little hat here, all these nations west of Poland and Hungary, like Italy, and to down here in this, all these are Western. They have the best technology group that they can have. They don't have the plus 25, they don't have anything here. It costs them 600 to tech up. All other technology group can westernize. There are 2 ways to do this. The Western focus, I'll come to it in a second. The main way is to westernize here. To be able to westernize, first you need a border with a Western nation. That border needs to not be a trade company. I'll explain trade company when you do a Western nation, but basically it's an action they can do with shore provinces in Africa and India and Asia to get more trade money from it. This is not valid. You cannot westernize from this. So a Western nation that has a core in its province that is not a trade company. You also need to be 7 technology or more behind that nation. And that's it to be able to click the button. Also, you need to not be overextended, so all your land needs to be cored. Once these prerequisites are active, you'll have an alert here, but you also have this button will be lit up. When you click this, you'll gain the effect that are at the bottom, +5 unrest and +50% advisor cost. You need to prepare for that. Make sure that none of your land has less than -5 unrest or close to it if you can deal with the rebels. And also realize that you might have to kill your advisors, well, fire advisors, because you won't be able to pay for them. Also, if you read the text here, but I'll simplify that. First of all, it costs you 3 stability to do this, so you want to be able to buy that off at least back to 0, because otherwise you'll be getting more unrest than just the +5 down there. Also, as you can see, it will cost you a certain number of monarch points spread across your 3 categories. The value that it costs depends on which technology group you are. So Eastern and Anatolian costs less than, say, Native Americans. The further away a technology group is from Western, the more it will cost you. It will also cost. How it pays this, it's by draining your monarch points every month by a value based on your size. The larger you are, the less you will be drained every month, making it slower, but also letting you do other things with your points. Every month, what is drained, like if I was to lose 8 every month, that would be 24 per month, as long as I can afford it. Because if I was to be drained 8, now I can afford 8, 12, I can afford it, I would be at 004. But that's because I have a godlike ruler. Generally speaking, I wouldn't be able to pay 8 a month. It would be draining, it would be at a negative income of monarch points every month. Eventually my points would reach 0, and then it will slow down my westernization even more, because this would need to catch up until I can pay for that value. It won't go in the negative, it will let you at 0, but that category will stop giving points to the points you need to spend. This will go on until the value is paid, at which point you will be Western, and the effect at the bottom will go away. Also, every 6 months you will get a bad event that will either ask you to lose progress towards westernization or deal with a bad event. It can be rebels, it can ask you to lose monarch points, it can make you lose stability, etc., etc. You deal with it. So that's westernization, that's the normal way to do it. Also, although if you are Eastern or Anatolian like us, you have this decision that I explained. This lets you westernize without having to deal with the westernization process, although you need to reach a certain prerequisite. Administrative Technology 10, it doesn't matter, because generally speaking you're not going to westernize anyway before you get there. Stability 1 is easy to get, total development at least 300, like for us it's pretty easy, we're already at 293, we'll reach 300 like in a year. Government rank is the least kingdom, it's done. No other country has taken the decision Western focus, so only one of those nations can take it. So you need to be quite quick about it. And then you need to take a specific province. The specific provinces you have access to depends on who you are. So as the Ottomans, we can take Vienna or Prague. As you can see, this is pretty difficult. Vienna is here, Prague is here. We need to take that. Then we need the separatism to leave. I didn't explain unrest yet, but separatism is a statistic, that negative statistic on the province that gives you unrest there when you take new land. That is not a core already. Separatism will take 30 years to decay away unless you have ideas to reduce the amount of separatism you take. To be able to Western focus, the province you take, either Vienna or Prague, needs to have no separatism in it. Once all that is achieved, you can click this, which makes you Western, which doesn't cost you the 2,500 it would cost me if I was to westernize normally. Now, accept culture shift is there when your capital is on a province that is not on of your own culture. My capital has been moved to Edirne, which is Greek, but I am Turkish, so I have culture shift. You can only do this if the culture in question that is in your capital is the dominant culture in your country, which it's not. Turkish is still the dominant culture. But if you want to do this, it basically turns your your main culture to the culture of your capital. Sometimes it's good to do, sometimes it's not. Usually it's useless to do that, but sometimes it can be useful because some culture groups have access to some specific decisions that you might want to have access to. Adopt the provisional government system is another decision for the Turks. We'll have access to that at admin 5, which will give us national tax modifier, but at the cost of autonomous. Usually I don't do that, but that's up to you, but I don't. And this is accessible to any Sunni nation. If you have innovative ideas, it will give you permanent bonus of idea cost -5 at the cost of 10% snap cost. So this is the tab here. And this is going to be the end of this video, of this episode. At the next episode, we'll do the stability and the religion, and maybe the military. And then, well, I only have the estates to do, and we'll be good to go on this. I will wish you a good day, or whatever you'll have. I will welcome you to follow as well as subscribe on YouTube for more content. And I will see you next time.